Hello everybody, a very warm welcome back to my channel. I hope you've had a great week and that you're doing okay. I'm here today to talk about my favourite witchcraft books. I really enjoyed putting this list together and I really hope that you enjoy the titles that I've picked for you. It was great fun. It was difficult, I'm not going to lie, because there are so many that I would have liked to have gone on the list. So yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them. If there's any books that you think that I might enjoy, just let me know. I'd love to hear more about that. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get cracking. The first title that I've chosen is The House Witch by Aaron Murphy Hiscock. Now, I would describe myself as a cottage witch. I don't really like labels as such, but if I had to define myself, that's what I would call myself. Home is really, really important to me, and I think it's where your craft begins and ends, really. And I love this book because it's so comforting. It talks about the importance of home in witchcraft, and there's lots and lots of ideas for little rituals to protect your house and basically just to show your home some love. I think that your home is your refuge and we need to treat it as a sacred space. We talk about sacred space a lot in witchcraft, but I think that your whole home is sacred space, and the more you practice magic in it, the more sacred it becomes. So this is an absolute nailed on recommendation for anybody who loves the home as much as I do and wants to make it the front and centre of their magical practice, really. This is The Witch's Book of Self-Care, also by Aaron Murphy Hiscock, who we've just spoken about. Now, I'm also a great believer in the importance of making time for yourself, looking after yourself, both physically, mentally, spiritually. And I think that this book is really helpful as far as that goes. She talks about emotional health, mental health, physical health, and ways to nurture those in your everyday practice. And I think that this book and the House Witch one that I spoke about go hand in hand, and I absolutely love this one. I think that this is a brilliant book for anybody who is looking inwards and trying to spend more time with themselves and trying little ways to make themselves feel better. So yeah, that's a great one. I really recommend this one. Next up is The Magical Household by Scott Cunningham. Now, you might notice that a lot of the authors that I'm choosing from are Wiccan, and although I said before that I don't identify as Wiccan, that doesn't mean that I don't get a lot of enjoyment out of reading Wiccan writing and that I don't get to take a lot of things away from them. So that's no disrespect towards Wiccans, absolutely not. It just isn't my path, but I read about lots and lots of different kinds of witchcraft, and Wicca's no exception. So I love Scott Cunningham, and there'll be another one of his books in a little while. But this one is lovely because it talks again about the importance of home, and there's lots and lots in this book about folklore from around the world and European folklore, which I find really, really interesting. He talks about the kitchen and how important it is to the witch, and how the simplest of rituals can help to make your house feel safer, more comfortable, and a more peaceful place to be. And I found this book to be really, really helpful. The thing I like most about Scott is that he takes magic and witchcraft down to its absolute bare minimum. And I think that's really important, because one thing I've noticed on social media in particular is the culture of needing to buy lots and lots of witchy kit. Tools do not make the witch. the witch makes the witch. And I think that that's really important to remember. You don't need fancy tools, you don't need fancy clothes, you don't need anything really. And I think that that's a really important point that Scott makes, but he takes it down to literally the level of stones and earth, and I love that. I think it's what real witchcraft is for me anyway, and that's why I love him. And that's why the Magical Household is here in this collection. I really hope you enjoy this one. I think it's fantastic, and it's one that I wouldn't be without. Scott Cunningham's here again with Earth Power, and I made the point in the last book from Scott about the fact that I love him because he takes witchcraft down to a really, really basic level. He makes the point that you just don't need fancy tools, you don't need any crazily priced bits and bobs. All you need is yourself, your heart and your intent, and the tools that nature gives us. The tools don't make the witch. This is a point that I keep making, and all that you need is everything that's around us. And he takes it down to its base level. He gets us out into nature. He talks about the magic of the earth, the air, the fire, the water, and he gets us to really think about all the elements and how to use them in our practice. And he really resonates with me because he's one of the first people that I actually read when I started practicing the craft seriously, and he really encourages us to get out and about and to use the tools that nature gives us. So he's non-threatening, he's accessible, he's easy to understand, and it's just a real shame that Scott's no longer with us, because I would have loved to have read more from him, but we're so lucky that he was around and gave us his wonderful works. So yeah, I really, really recommend this one to anybody who's new to the craft or is an experienced practitioner. I think that this is a great book. Next up is A Witch Alone by Marion Green, and I think that this is a really important book for any witch who is alone on their path. Not everyone is lucky enough to have a lot of witchy friends. Not everybody wants lots of witchy friends. Some people want to practice alone, and that's absolutely fine. But Marion is fantastic at taking you through the lunar cycles, and the basis of the book is 13 moons to understand magic, basically. And for each moon she gives a set of different exercises and a set of things to think about, and I found this really, really helpful. I think it would be really helpful for anyone who's not solitary, to give them a bit of an insight into how solitary witchcraft works. I think sometimes you do need to spend some time on your own with your craft. Sometimes being part of a group, it doesn't work for everybody. It's not something that everybody wants to do all the time, and I think that this book is really helpful for that. She talks about doing service to others and the moral obligations of being a witch, a modern witch, even though this book was written quite a long time ago, and what she says still holds true today. So I think that this would help anyone who is new to the craft, and it's also one that I do pick up still, even after all this time, because I found it helpful, still find it helpful, and even now I will pick it up and find something that I'd not really seen or thought about before. So yeah, this is a great one. Here is The Real Witch's Garden by Kate West, who, I'm not gonna lie, is my favourite witchy author. I think she's absolutely fantastic. Now, this book's been invaluable to me in the process of setting up my own little garden. I was lucky enough to get a little backyard with the house that we're living in, and I was completely new to gardening, really wanted to give it a go, didn't really know where to start from a witchy perspective. And then I came across this book. I'd read Kate's books previously, and then this one came along, and I love it. It's taught me how to set up an elemental garden, excuse me, how to create a magical space in the garden, what plants to put in the garden to nourish both mind, body and spirit. And it's also as a place of worship, which is important as a witch. It's a place to be when you want to be with nature, in your own surroundings. And I think the garden's an extension of sacred space attached to your home. So I think in that respect, it's really important to have an idea of what to put and where. So yeah, Kate's absolutely fantastic. I've lent this book out to loads of people who've loved it. If you want to know how to create a magical garden, buy this one before you buy any other. Here's Everyday Witchcraft by Deborah Blake. She's another fabulous Wiccan author that I absolutely love, and she also has the ability, a bit like Scott Cunningham, to bring witchcraft down a notch, to make it more accessible, to make it more understandable. And she encourages you to be the best witch you can be, not just at sabbats and festivals and gatherings that you might go to, but on an everyday basis. And she makes that really easy. She makes suggestions for how you can incorporate little acts of witchcraft into your everyday life. Really simple things like even the way you stir your coffee, and the way you prepare food, and the way you care for yourself when you have your bath or shower, or just little things, you know, the things you do, and the way that you think about the things that you do. And I think that's really important. These things that she tells us about are not things that have to take up loads and loads of time. They can be just tiny acts that you incorporate into your day. But I've found this to be really, really helpful, and she's given me a lot to think about. And the next book that I'm going to talk about is one of Deborah's as well. This is The Goddess is in the Details by Deborah Blake, and this is the follow-on to her book that I've just spoken about, the Everyday Witchcraft book. She takes it a step further in this book, and she talks about the little things that cross the minds of witches every day, and things that we think about but probably haven't thought about in any great detail. She talks about raising pagan children. She talks about being of service to others. She talks about relationships with non-pagans, and how we talk about our belief and practices to other people. And I think that this has been really helpful for me. It's given me a lot to think about, and she gives exercises in here for daily practice, and again, more stuff to think about. And I think that this goes a little bit deeper than a previous book. As she says, the goddess is in the details. So if you're looking to progress from the previous book and to challenge yourself a little bit more, I think that this is a great place to do that. The next to last title that I've chosen is Autumn Equinox, The Enchantment of Mabon by Ellen Duggan. Now, I bought this years ago, before I even started practicing witchcraft, and I'm not really sure how it happened. I love autumn. I'm obsessed with autumn. It's my thing. If you know me well, that's just who I am. It's what I love. And I seem to remember looking for books about autumn, autumn poetry and that kind of thing, autumn art. And I looked online, and this came up on a secondhand book website. It wasn't Amazon. And it turns out that Ellen is an American author. She's Wiccan, and I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't know what Mabon meant, and I just thought, I love the look of that. This looks like something that I could really be interested in. Anyway, it turned up, and I started reading. I read it from cover to cover, and I was just blown away by what Ellen talked about. And it turned out that there were people who thought exactly the same about autumn as I did, and not only autumn but every other season of the year. And the things she spoke about seemed to start something within me, and I found it, to be honest, a little bit scary, because I wasn't really sure what was happening. I wasn't really sure where this was going to go, but I'm forever thankful to this book and to this particular author, because it was a really important book, almost important as the one I'm going to talk about next. But this one talks about the season and the magic of the season and folklore and what we're actually celebrating when we're celebrating Mabon, or the autumn equinox. And there are stories, there are poems, there are crafts, and it's fabulous. I don't even know if you can still get this, but if you can, I think you'd really enjoy it. If you love autumn as much as I do, it's fabulous. I would definitely never part with this one. Without question, without any hesitation, I'm going to recommend this book as my absolute all-time favourite witchy book. I know I'm going to read a lot more in my lifetime, I get that, but I can't ever see any book doing for me what this book has done. This is The Real Witch's Handbook by Kate West, and I absolutely love it. Not long after I bought the Mabon book that we've just been speaking about, I came across this book, and it was recommended to me on a website, and I took a punt and I bought it, and I read it from cover to cover within a couple of days. And I'm going to level with you now, because when I read this book, it felt like I had come home. I can't describe it any other way. I started to understand what I was feeling, and I started to understand that this was what I was. And I'd been hiding it for years. I'd been making excuses for it. I'd been trying all kinds of different things to hide from what I knew in my heart that I was. And this book made me feel like I was valid, like I meant something. Sorry, I'm a bit emotional. And it's just so important. Even now, I picked this book up because there is so much in there that said so much about me, and it helped me to understand so much. And I pick it up when I need comfort, when I need reassurance, and when I need, not validation. I don't validate myself anymore. Those days are gone. But when I want to take myself back down to when I first started practicing, when things get a little bit too much, when I think everything's got a bit too woolly, a bit too unclear, I come back to this book time and time again. Kate talks about the Wheel of the Year, which was a completely new concept to me, and what we're celebrating and when. She talks about how we've felt. I'm sure this is how we've all felt at this point, at some point, and you know, that it's okay to feel these feelings, and it's okay to not understand what's happening, but she makes it much easier to understand. I'm sorry if this all sounds a bit fluffy. I'm just trying to put my thoughts in order about how much this book means. I would never part with this. My copy it's absolutely dog-eared. It's full of markings and notes and scribblings, because this is it's kind of my instruction book. And as I keep saying, I'm not Wiccan. Kate is Wiccan. I respect her 100%. I will listen to anything she's got to say, because what she has said and done has meant so much to me. And to anybody starting out in the craft, I know I've recommended this book to a few people very, very recently, and I really hope that they're getting from it. If they get half of what I got from it, then they'll be okay. But I can't recommend this strongly enough. I will never part with this book, and I would tell anybody heading out along this path to pick this up before you pick up anything else. And it's an absolute darling. I love it. I have really enjoyed putting these books together for you. I really hope that you've enjoyed hearing about them as much as I enjoyed sorting them out for you. And I apologise for getting a little bit emotional at one point, but that's how much that book has meant to me. And I really hope that if you take any inspiration from this list, that the books that you choose really help you as much as they've helped me. Somebody once said to me that they felt it was really important that books came to them. And what they meant by that was that I'd said to them, I was buying absolutely loads and loads of books and I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. I wasn't developing my understanding. And that's when they said to me, let the books come to you. I didn't understand what that meant, but I do now. And I think that what that meant was wait for people to tell me what they'd found had helped them. Wait for books to literally fall into your hands, which has happened with a couple of the ones that I've talked about. I definitely recommend personally going for quality over quantity all day long. That's why I got rid of quite a lot of my books fairly recently, because they weren't doing anything for me anymore. And I'd rather focus on the ones that are really helpful and that I've really benefited from. And that's the list that I've put out there today. I really hope you enjoy it. Please let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books, what you think of them, or tell me about books that you read that you've absolutely loved. I'd love to hear that. Thank you so much for being here again. I'm just chuffed to bits that you're here. I know I keep saying it, but I'm honestly thrilled to bits, and it means so much to me that you are here. And I will see you very soon. And until then, have a great week. Look after yourselves. Thank you for being here, and blessed be.